you send your mail in case if there is any issue can be presented there. Is it possible?
Oh, sorry, ma'am, your voice is breaking.
And
Need to search more about Madam on the internet. What a rich biodata Madam has. Oh my God. Professor N. Manimekalai, founder director of Department of Women's Studies, has more than 29 years of rich teaching and research experience. She has produced more than 70 PhDs under her guidance. She is currently Dean, Faculty of Arts, Director, and Head of the Department of Women's Studies, Bharatidasan University, Tiruchirappalli. She has been instrumental in introducing MA, MPhil, PhD programs in women's studies, gender studies, and also certificate and diploma programs in life skills and counseling, and a non-major elective in life skills. She serves in various capacities as member of Senate, Academic Council, Management Committee, Board of Studies, Governing Council, IQAC, Research Committee, Policy Note Committee, etc. in various universities and colleges. She is member in Advisory Committee for Women's Studies in 20 universities and colleges across India. Madam is trainer in capacity building for women managers in higher education, gender sensitization, life skills, and menstrual hygiene management. She has accomplished 10 major research projects funded by national and international agencies. Madam is founder secretary of Regional Association for Women's Studies, Menstrual Hygiene Management Consortium, and Women Entrepreneur Association of Tamil Nadu, and have been instrumental in introducing foundation course on gender studies in Bharatidasan University. She has authored 2 books and has more than 100 publications in both journals and chapters in books to her credit. Dr. Manimekalai was elected twice as treasurer and joint secretary of the Indian Association for Women's Studies and has been member of Indian Society of Victimology, secretary of RAWS, etc. Ma'am has received
yeah,
17
that,
awards,
it's
citation.
enough, I believe, because it is,
Ma'am, just
always it is heavy, no? You need not read
okay.
everything. Thank you
All
very much.
right, ma'am. The people must know you have received 17 awards, citations, recognition from the government and non-governmental organizations for a service to the society and has influenced quite a few governmental policies. Madam, this is something I must tell the audience. So she works with
Thank you.
conviction to promote gender sensitization. I request Madam Manimekalai to kindly unfold her thoughts on the topic of gender sensitizing and gender budgeting. Madam, floor
Thank
is
you.
all yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aradhana, by presenting this um, brief. It is brief, but it always goes lengthy. We prepare the CPR resume for some purpose, not really to produce, because you all know, you are very much clear about maths requirement, and to upload there on the website also we prepare a link. So it is our duty to do all these activities as a teacher, as a researcher, as a person connecting with the extension activities in the university system. One has to work on it. So whatever is required, we are delivering. So in that perspective, we are going to interact here for about 1.5 hours on gender sensitization and gender budgeting. And tomorrow also I'll be talking on the gender mainstreaming concepts. So I appreciate the university, National University, for conducting this program, and thanks to the director of HRDC for because you have to come submit this proposal to EDC to get it sanctioned. So I appreciate and thank the university for having thought of including a short-term course on gender sensitization. So I'm doubly happy that I could be here to interact with you thanks to Professor Devon, she was not able to come, and therefore she suggested, and I'm here interacting with you. And the topic also is very, very dear to me, because it is one of the important activities of the Department of Women Studies, wherever you are, gender sensitization is part of it. So can you move to the next slide? So the very first slide indicates that whatever we are going to discuss here in the Naranakas informs that we are not discussing. I'm showing here the pictures of women, but it includes men and transgender and other sexually non-conforming categories also. So they are not homogeneous. That is the message this picture tells you. Since the inequalities and discrimination faced by women or more, inevitably we have to emphasize and particular on the issues of women. And so you can see here the women who are walking on foot to fetch water when the particular places that drought hit and there is lack of drinking water. The women are supposed to walk for miles to get one part of water, and that could be seen here, barefoot walking for long with heavy load. And so it is not that women alone should be responsible for fetching water or making available drinking water for the household. But unfortunately, the social structure is such that where women they themselves take up that as their assigned activities, or men also, or other members of the family also make these women to engage in such activities. And you see other pictures also, very alike, educated women in leadership positions getting in some pictures. And you do have women engaging in the age employment, like construction work or in agriculture labor work. And also one is doing self-employment where she is doing the mat weaving. The other one is empowered women where she can determine her mobility by driving a car. And the other one is working in a forest. So we think about all these women, and particularly the most vulnerable, and most vulnerable are the most, or the majority. And the women in leadership position or the educated and the people in decision making positions are very, very less in number. And people used to say in women studies the tokenism. You can only say point to some women in certain categories. They are chief ministers, they are the president of the panchayat, they are the CEOs of corporate bank or whatever. So this kind of tokenism should be done away with, so that more women will be there in the decision making position. In fact, in one of my studies on the women's participation decision making in the railways, Indian railways, it is one of the PhDs who is working on this topic. It was found that there has been an increase in the percentage of women in the leadership positions. It has touched 25%. This is a good number. We are talking about 1/3, 33%. It should reach at least 1/3. But the other, for example, political participation itself is very low, where you have 15%, less than 15%. But in certain areas, particularly where you can appear for competitive exams and qualify yourself for that position, be it the civil services, all the UPSC exams, and similarly this one. Women are really on the forefront, and you all know and must be aware that higher education also women are equally. And in Tamil Nadu, it is almost equal, less than a percent difference in terms of the gender gap in education. It's been very, very low in Tamil Nadu. That means thanks to various proactive or positive discrimination introduced in policies of the government. And recently, you must be aware that the government of Tamil Nadu has introduced to pay ₹1,000 for the women who are taking care of the household activities. And similarly, bus has been made free. So this promotes the mobility of the women. And there has been debates about whether this money has to be given to all women or only women who are from the lower income group, or all the women should be given free bus, all such things. But there has been several programs which are implemented, but not much of such debates are held. But when it comes to women, there are definitely people arguing why this to go. And I have been clarifying that it has to be treated as investment, because the mobility of the woman is promoted means she will participate in work, and that will still contribute to, or what I should say, kind of development. And it was also that you started recognizing the agency of women, because very often the agency of women has been um, declined or not recognized. Next slide. So this is what I want to convey. So whatever we discuss here will be about the all sections of the population, including men, women, transgender, and others. And also the emphasis will be on relevance. And this is another picture where we have to make a distinction between equality, equity. So the society is divided. There are being a scientist or social scientist, you must also be aware of the kind of inequalities prevailing in the society. So it may be on the basis of caste, class, gender, religion, region, like rural versus urban, in terms of age, in terms of race, and you have the white versus black there in west, and even within Tamil Nadu, within India also you have different um, uh, regions where the differences are, I mean, people, racial different, ethnic differences are there. And therefore, there will be discrimination. And also, religion wise, you have versus, I mean, majority versus minority. Caste wise, you have already accepted the Varnashra, and you have the upper caste, the middle caste, and the lower caste. And also, you had one caste which is not being even included into the caste, maybe the outcast or the untouchables. And you have to really fight for inclusion, and thanks to all the campaigns and the kind of struggles that the society, Indian society is faced, so that the inclusion could be possible, and a lot of positive discrimination, discriminatory initiatives be right from the constitution. You have been ensured and enjoying also. The first figure talks about equality. So, what is this picture trying to tell about is that what is required is equity, not equality. That is very obviously pictured here. So, in the first, the society claims, or the state claims that everybody has been given equal opportunity. But you should also take into consideration the differences, or the kind of levels of achievement. So in the picture, you apply this three to any context, be it caste wise or class wise or gender wise or disability, whichever context, if the same logic can be applied. So you have the upper income group, middle income group, and lower income group, or you have the upper caste, the middle caste, the lower caste, and similarly men, women, trans, etc. So the tall one is a dominant order in any sense of the term. If it is caste wise, it is upper caste; class wise, upper income group; gender wise, it is the male; religion wise, this majority religion, whatever. So this is the dominant order, and that has been symbolized as the tall person. So he or she, being by virtue of being the dominant social order, is endowed with the facilities which really brings everything to him. And the middle caste you have, or middle income group, is it's okay, it is not a big issue. For the other one is the issue of not able to access to facilities, and it can be applied to men, women also. So the blue shirt person is a man, and the middle is the woman, and the other one is a transgender or disabled, whatever. So you have to take into consideration the special needs of each person, and accordingly devise policy so that equity will be ensured. So that is happening in the second picture. So very interestingly, the first, in terms of any kind of social order, dominant social order, can just part with the resources so that it will be distributed to other people who are really not able to access to such resources. So it can be women, men and women means women, and of course transgender. So the men has been enjoying the property rights and also enjoy by social sanction that they should be the breadwinner of the family. And therefore, whenever you go the very corporate or very office or in any other workplace factory, prefer the men first and the women may be second. And there are certain kind of division of labor also, and certain kind of work they don't even hire women, and so this division is reflected, and therefore the men I mean, here also in this group we have men and women present, and the men are supposed to, who have been there in the public life for a long, to offer space for women to, I can be their own women in the family or their own colleagues, or in a whichever maybe if you are associated with some movement, you have to offer space for women also to come and occupy by parting with whatever resources you have already enjoying. So that will ensure equity, and therefore here the instead of giving equal heighted tables or benches, you the first one who already enjoyed that. For example, today's education, why there is a reservation, or employment, why there is a reservation, because one particular section of the population is there enjoying the benefit for long, or they have been endowed with the resource of accessibility and enjoy the whatever the participation in work in certain areas. But the other lot which never had any opportunity, and therefore they have to be, that is the justification that we do for this reservation. And similarly, this 33% reservation in the local body elections for women, because if it is not, then it's very difficult to find women to come. And thanks to this implementation, now more than 33% are being elected in the local body elections, and now in Tamil Nadu it is 40%, in Karnataka it is. So in certain states, even it has gone to 50%. So that is the logic. Like the second picture ensures equity, and in terms of facilities, you have to see that the facilities at the workplace or whenever you go out, the women friendly and men friendly facilities are to be provided, disability friendly facilities are to be provided, and trans also now asking for separate facilities in certain areas. They want to identify themselves as a trans woman into women, and you also have trans men. And so every individual in the society are supposed to be recognized, and accordingly this change in the policy should be initiated so that equity will ensure. So that is happening there. Now in the second picture, the third one was parted with the first parted with the one whatever the resource he has, and enabling the third one to able to access to facilities. So that is the very conveying message from this pictures. And you also have a third picture. The fourth is the what is in the long run we are requiring, that nobody should have any hurdles. They can just avail this facility or access to facilities, whichever whoever is in need, they can go and access those. So that is what it is being conveyed. But what is the reality is, of course, India is like this, the third picture, wherein the concentration of wealth is with a few. Like in economics, the statistics would be told like this: the 90% of the resources are with 10% of the population, whereas 10% of the resources is owned by the 90% of the population. So this is what it has been shown here also. So whatever the equality or equity or the reality, I mean, liberation requirement, the reality is entirely different, and therefore any policy must focus on what I should say, the kind of facilities required should be made available to you. Next. So I think this is the base for everything when we are talking about gender sensitization or gender equality. Without understanding this concept, equity and equality, it may not be fair to proceed. So that is why I introduced this also. Next slide. Yeah, same thing is being conveyed here with a different picture. Next.
Madam,
Yeah.
can we use little bit Hindi in between? if possible to you.
Ayo, I am not. I am not familiar with Hindi. Sorry.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, no issues.
Sorry.
Yes, yes. Please continue.
So this is equal opportunities. So here this is still be conveying, wherein or anybody can briefly explain after my presentation for a few minutes, because I shouldn't. I mean, whatever I convey should be. Is there anybody, like, if I talk for 10 minutes and you can briefly translate in Hindi for 2 minutes? Is it okay? Anybody? If at all, if it is desperate. Okay, you can volunteer whenever you are. So in this picture also, it is like the same kind of same competition is being given to everyone. That is, you have to secure a fair selection. You all get to secure. You all get the same exercise. You must climb the tree. So this particular exercise is that you all go and climb the tree and come, so that you will be recognized whether you have done one or not. You have elephant, you have monkey, you have fish. So is it fair to give same kind of exercise to all the people who are endowed with different capabilities? So that is unfair. So equal opportunity doesn't mean that you have also considered the equity or given fair chance. So that has to go first before talking about equal opportunity. Next. Yeah, there are always, whether it is men or women, I mean, for women, the biological reproductive role is an exception, and men do not have. But all the other roles you have. But one fascinating thing is that I was talking about Tamil Nadu introducing the compensation for women, particularly 1,000 rupees per month as uh, care, compensating for the care economy. So because of non-recognition of that particular task as productive role, actually it is productive. Without women's presence, it is difficult for others also, as Maria explains in her theory, that the corporates, I mean the women's social reproductive activities, that are the activities which help other members of the family to regain energy, whatever the household activities that the women do at home. That is actually a huge subsidy for the corporates or capitalists, who otherwise will have to spend their profit or part with their profit on investing on these. For example, if women are not doing all this work, and instead the men are supposed, mostly men are going out for work, though women are also doing. And most of the factories will hire women, men. And that context, for example, you have to be there at 8 o'clock, and if you are supposed to work on all the household activities, because the women are not working on that social different activities, then you have to, you may be delayed that to the factory or office, or the factories are supposed to provide morning breakfast and afternoon lunch, etc. So additional task will be done. In fact, it has been followed there in Dubai and other countries, where men do not are not expected to finish their breakfast or prepare lunch and come, so that they will be there early in the uh, work spot to work. So this is what she claims that it is a subsidy. So without the presence of women, the corporate would definitely suffer with a profit margin. But despite such contribution, women's productive, I mean, it is not even called as productive. In 1981 census, no work performed by women were called as productive work, particularly which are not monetized or not paid. And slowly, several women's organizations and groups made it an issue, and therefore it was 1981 onwards. Certain kind of work has been recognized as the productive work, like whatever value-added product the women do at home, and also go and engage in the farm, bringing some returns. Maybe you will be engaging in some crop cultivation, whatever. So whichever is counted as women's work, they are included as productive work, but still they are not monetized or they are not paid. But just because it is not paid, it shouldn't be called as unproductive. You are not calling them as productive. So this is unfair. So that issue still been in discussion. And the question of care economy in Goa, the government has been paying 2,000 rupees per household women who are looking after the household activities. And there are other states also taking up this. So reproductive role, of course, your all the biological and social reproductive activities. Productive means if you go and work and get money, and that is wage or salary, then that work alone is treated as productive. And apart from these two roles, community management role is also there, where women, if, for example, now in the current context, the self-help group women are all coming together and waiting to be done for the entire area, region, whether it is rural or urban, they come together and plan for the activity. So, are even pooling the resources and maybe preparing the pond or the lake in this helping, etc. Next. So these are the three important roles of the women. So this is again, I was talking about the care economy. So there was a survey done. Whenever there is now the census data, the questionnaire has been different, but earlier it was totally asking even the head of the household, they will be doing only with the men. If the men are absent, then they will go and come later also. Only when the men members of the family are present, the people will come and do the survey. But now there has been some gender sensitivity and therefore changes been included. And so here a person is doing a survey, and he was just asking the women members that what are you doing, and they simply say that it is we are not doing anything. That is, we are just um, we are just doing all these like fetching water, then doing the gardening, and also sell crops, some food crops or vegetables, etc. Buy food at the market and cook meals, attend women's group meetings, and washing and mending the clothes. So not, no, we don't work. So you say that you are all doing this, but you are still at the end of the day you're saying that you are not working. This is because I just mentioned, no, this the work which is unpaid is not considered as work at all. Only when you bring money, then that particular thing will be treated as work. And therefore, it has gone into the minds of the people, including women. They got internalized the values that whatever work that the women do at home or at the field without any payment cannot be called as work. So that is very the definition of work must also be changed. Next. So we will now do some exercise. I'll be showing some pictures, and I don't know how comfortable it will be reflecting on this, but whoever, please unmute yourself and reflect on that. I will be showing some pictures where you have to say whether that particular activity will suit men or a woman, and if you feel that it doesn't, then you have to say why and reason out. Okay. In the process, we will also be understanding what is sex and gender. I don't know whether earlier discussions have already been focused on that, but still it is some. And moreover, we may all be very familiar with this kind of thing, but the students, when you do conduct gender sensitization, this can be used, and that is the reason why I am bringing this presentation here. Next. So there is a picture where it is one of the traditional game or sports, whatever, still that called Silampatam. You have to take a long stick and do different kind of thing. Is it? I don't know whether there may be in Maharashtra also. You must be. Sorry. Yeah, it must be available in similar kind of thing. So it was traditionally, that is why this question arises. It was traditionally the men and women doing, but later on, this particular sport has become men's sports. Now, girls are also learning this. So that is why it is not that it is should not be stereotyped that there is a men game or a sport or a women game. Now everything is happening, and you all know in the Olympic also, women started bringing more medals than the men, and in the Paralympic also. So they are breaking the ceiling and the barrier, whatever the barrier, and also stereotype that these are the games that it is meant only for men or only for women. Those kind of, but traditionally speaking, most of the games and sports would be making the women confined to four walls. Like they'll be doing within sitting. There are traditional games that in Tamil. You must also have for your region. So it is mostly indoor games and making them to sit and play rather than even jump. So it is again reinforcing the stereotyping that women are supposed to, even through games, supposed to stay inside and not jump or run or go out, expose themselves in the public life, public places, etc. So this can be done by women because this family may not be familiar, so I am giving the answer. Next. Next. There is problem. This is a woman climbing on the tree. It is a coconut tree. Can you say that whether women can do or not? Anyone can just unmute yourself. Is you have to give permission, get permission. Okay, let me continue because over every time you can't expect the organizers to come and be yourself. So women climbing on the tree, yeah, it is the very moment, the very sight of the picture. If you show this to students, I'm talking in the Tamil Nadu context, they may not, what I should say that, oh no, women cannot climb. But there is a community here in South Tamil Nadu where the very profession itself for the entire community, I'm talking about that particular community, the profession itself is climbing on the tree and getting whatever the extract that coconut juice or making value-added product from that, etc. Whether it is palm tree or so, it is possible. The training, if the training is given, women can also climb and men can also climb. Next. And clean the floor washing clothes. So normally in any household it is not happening. Men will not engage in these kind of activities because it is unpaid, I already told, and there is also a division of labor where women are supposed to render all these activities. Men are supposed to go out and earn for the family, and therefore need not have to spend their time in the social reproductive activities in the household. But it can be done by men and women. And the more political aspect of it is that they do engage in such activities when it is paid. So all the housekeeping activities at the hotels or the hospitals, all this cleaning, etc., will be done very much professionally by men, where it is being paid. So that is the gender politics. Same work, if paid, men are engaged, and if it is not paid, women are engaged. This is that is a very important example of gender politics. Next. Yeah, women driving a tractor. Maybe right from the beginning, women were trained in plowing, and now it is mechanized, and therefore women can. But unfortunately, what is it can be done. The women can drive, and in fact, they are in Tamil Nadu, in our own place, and I'm from Tiruchirappalli. And there is a woman who is driving a lorry, and it is not just within Tamil Nadu. She goes to Kerala also. Very young girl. She runs a lorry to with all this banana load to Kerala. And there are people who runs school vans, school buses, and auto cars, very common, commercial cars. So this is also when I landed in there, Paris, I could see many women running the driving the cargo lifting huge van. It's not simply a small one. And the only difference I could see, all the women were blacks. They were not whites. So there the different discrimination is between black and white. That is the racial discrimination. And here it is gender discrimination. So here the men feel that riding a tractor can be done only by men, or it is not fair to make women to drive. So that is like they do this discrimination as such, giving concern for the women, but you are almost suppressing the women for not exposing to various things. So that shouldn't be done. Next. Boys sweeping the floor. Yeah, right from the beginning, you have to train the boys also. Like whenever any common, even people present here also, where women teachers, they will expect the wards, young girls to do all the social activities at the household, but not training the men or the boys on the same. So it can be done by boys, and you have to train right from the beginning. You are already doing it, appreciation for the same, but you're not doing, then at least from next generation onwards, you have to train this. There is an example how the stereotyping influence the or impact the gender stereotyping in the household context. So there is a small, a tiny, over 1 year old, 2 year old girl, or baby girl or baby boy, and you are asking the child to go and pick up the newspaper and the milk packet. It's just come there, and the child will go and pick up and distribute that to the parents. So definitely in the given stereotype context, the paper will be going to the father, the milk packet to the mother. We never taught them that it has to be, but somehow the child has been observing every day what is happening and who is doing what, and automatically, without even thinking, she or he just give the milk packet to the mother, because she or he sees and observes that the mother is putting the milk or boiling the milk, whereas father sitting and reading the paper. It's not that women should not read the paper, they have to also read the paper and get informed what is happening around. Similarly, the men should also go and help there in the kitchen so that things will be easier. But there is a complete divide. Exceptions will be there. I don't say that it is actually totally 100% happening like this. But so the message, see this picture, I'm saying the child doesn't get taught by any others, but rather our own activities by the elders where the family really shapes their behavior, attitude, expectations, etc. So whatever you want to change also, you try to instill there in their childhood so that they will pick up and implement positively there in their lifestyle, at least the next generation, because we have already got internalized your values, patriarchal values, and our own children, grown-up children also. But the grandchildren definitely will be picking up better gender sensitized messages and tasks so that gender equality be ensured. Next. So there are different pictures like this. So girls can fly the kite, but normally what is being told is that no, let this, all these are all only boys can do. And if you get hurt using that particular thread, no, it is very sharp and knifey. So they simply say that or it prevent the girls to, but it is girls can also equally fly the kites. Next. This is what it means gender mainstreaming. Like the girls and boys should engage in all the activities together. It's not that again you can see in the dress, the men's wear to be owned by the girls. So always it is centering on the male, whether it's a pant shirt or t-shirt, whatever. Apart from sari, the reverse never happens. It don't happen also. So the society is male centric, and you wanted to adopt whatever men are doing, and that is reflected in the dressing also. And so this picture is written shaving the face. It is not possible. The women do not have that beard and other things, but it is on men. Only thing meaning conveys here is it's not gender, it's sex. So something which biologically exists there in the body of the male or female, it is something sex. Whereas if it is society imposed, society created, then whatever the earlier pictures, no, all are gender, whereas this is sex. Next. And making dosa, yeah, as we have already discussed in the hotels, and whatever the place you are in the marriage halls, etc., men will be making thousands of dosa every day and different varieties of dosa, and therefore back home they will expect the members of the family to prepare for them. So again, the same thing. When it is paid, same task is being delivered by men. When it is not, then it is the woman. And now things are changing. I don't question in the earlier context where there was a complete division of labor. Men only were going out and doing all the work, the women do not. But it did not. But this context is changing, and therefore there is a need for change. That is the very the objective of gender sensitization. Next. Man breastfeeding cannot be done because it is the naturally given responsibility for women. Next. Man helping the child to sleep, definitely, because he cannot deliver and breastfeed the child, but he can definitely make the child sleep. And therefore, what is actually conveyed is that it's not that because the woman delivers the child and breastfeed the child, she should also make the child grow up till a certain age. It's not. That is why you have now fraternity leave, and in Tamil Nadu, the actual maternity leave also has been enhanced to 1 year. So it is conveyed that you make the parents, both the father and mother, trained to take care of the child. It is not that the trust should be established only in the place of work of the mother. The child is grown up, for example, beyond 1 year, the breastfeed has been stopped, then definitely the father can also take the child to the crash. Because in the crash, of course, you will be making the other helpers to look after. If the mother is not able to, or the mother's place is a little distant, it is always possible for father also to take the child to the crash. But what is actually gone into the minds of the policymakers also that crash should be available for the mother. So that is what it is being, but it can be both, provided that you train both father and mother in the right from the beginning, with a gender perspective, with a gender understanding, that it has to be the child. I mean, the responsibility of bringing up the child would be both men and next. Dishwash, again the same thing. Like it can be done, but generally in our context, people say, no, men cannot dishwash. It is the responsibility of a woman. So anybody can do, and this will balance the time and the requirement of the household. Next. Breastfeeding, this is sex, like women alone can breastfeed the child. So this is naturally given responsibility. So if it is indisputable, you can't immute it. Next. Man winnowing, yeah, this normally this in agriculture field also the men will not do engage or engage in this kind of work. The woman only. So all the intensive laborious tasks, particularly in agriculture, will be whether it is transplantation or breeding, where you have to do the whole the entire work with your own manual, or bending your body without any help of an instrument. Like men will always be doing with, for example, tractor or ploughing or spade or whatever. The women would be transplanting, so they have to use the entire body, and it was revealed in several studies that, particularly in the Latin American countries, that the pregnant women engaging in transplantation often face stillborn when they are pregnant. The child won't be made. There is a problem of abortion or stillborn. So the entire body is being bent and delivered. So that is true for all many majority activities in which women engage will not take any instrument of support, but their entire manual labor will be demanded. Next. Yeah. Next. Rangoli. So this is actually every day in the south. It is very common. Every day the woman will get up and clean the entrance and also bring rangoli. There is an interesting story here. There was a teacher who belongs to, he is the vice president of the Tamil Nadu Progressive Writers Association also. So he is quite progressive person. So when he got married. She was also a teacher then. Now he's retired and widow. He told his wife, saying that you may not have to get up in the morning, prepare coffee and prepare the entrance, make the entrance, etc. That I'll take care. I'll prepare coffee and come, so you can still sleep, take rest. So that is what he started doing also. Every day he wake up in the morning and clean the entrance and clean the rangoli, etc. And there were the women doing the opposite houses, and they were surprised with the morning the man was doing all these things, and therefore they approached this man and told that, sir, it is better leave this if your wife is not coming forward to this, we will do this. So he also said something and left. The next day he woke up still early and went to those three houses and cleaned their entrances also, and brought to this Rangoli and returned, and he was doing in his own house. Then these women rushed to him and saying that no, it is better at least stop doing it for us. We don't mind you doing that for your house. So this is what the change has to come. So he is still doing, and he taught to others that it is not a big issue for men doing all this work, and it has been in the tradition, and doesn't mean that we have to follow without questioning it. Given that the women also going out and engage like men equally or sometimes more than equally in outside work, sometimes physical labor, sometimes both physical and mental labor, or sometimes very high positions, totally mental labor. And so you do not expect that the same kind of work, household work, to be delivered only by women. So that is what is being done. Next, man drying the clothes. Like here, normally it is a stigma. Men are not supposed to wash. Even if you wash, you should not wash the sari of a woman, etc. So deliberately, this picture has been drawn to sensitize. So there was a director appointed to the social welfare office. When his wife asked him to go and dry the clothes washed upstairs, the terrace, he took it out. He had just joined there as director of social welfare. Therefore, when he went up and he was seeing around and ensured that nobody watching him drying the clothes, and he finished the task and came down. After 3 months or so, the same task was given to this man. So he again went up and he was looking around and ensured that everybody seeing him sees him that he is drying the clothes, and he finished the task and came down. So this is a kind of a sensitivity he acquired in these 3 months as director of social welfare, where it is not that this is the men's work or women's work, anybody can do, and if you see that everybody is watching you drying the clothes, it will also be taken by others. So this is what the demonstration has to be done. Next. So gender stereotyping. I just defined what is the gender stereotyping, and unless and otherwise you remove this gender stereotyping in any form, then it is difficult to ensure gender equality. And so they are resistant to change and rooted in the collective and unconscious, because we just sometimes without even see the other day, however conscious you are, I was there in a village for a function. So there it was the village president who was supposed to attend that, and he was asking where is the president. Then they were saying they come. So unfortunately, both men and women, I mean husband and wife came. So I thought that man was the president. So I thought, though woman was the president, and both of them were coming. See, if it is the men president, then the woman won't accompany. But if it's a women president, then men also accompany. So it was a confusion for me because I was not aware of that particular village where the woman is always president. I mean president. And that's why I was asking, where is sir? So I, without realizing that woman is the president, I only asked to organizers that where is president is sir. So that is a kind of unconscious. Like you are a director women studies, but still it is gone into our mind that the president should be a man, given that 33% reservation is there. That is what the stereotype is. Stereotyping is that the president, similarly registrar, vice chancellor, or principal of the college. All these, the moment you think of that position, some people figure in their argument. Do not respond to rational evidence. Many a time it won't be rational. And stereotypes are blind, like reinforced to generation, and therefore they don't even put into rationality. What applies to one member of the stereotype group applies to all members. Yeah, that is what it is being spread with. What applies to the total stereotype group applies to each member of it. Every member of the group is just like every other member. Do not transfer to a non-member of it. Make comparisons to unidentified caste's. Then comparative stereotypes are judgmental and negative. So all these are the features of gender stereotype. Next. I think I have to next. I have to make a difference between sex and gender. Yeah. Before that, of course, we have to also understand what are the areas of gender discrimination in the society. So the major one is the declining sex ratio. Whatever I spoke so far, you may have difference, no, things are changing, all these things. Because we are all not highly gender sensitive to deeply analyze what is happening between men and women and transgender, etc. But the very issue of sex ratio, that I don't know how will you justify. When the baby girl is being killed because she is conceived and the conception is a baby girl, and thanks to technology, which is also unfavorably contributing to this, because in the beginning the sex ratio, decline in sex ratio, were in certain belts in certain regions only. But now, because of the presence of technology, you have this amniocentesis mesh technically inform you the sex of child. So particularly it was in North, the beginning, there in Haryana, here also in Maharashtra, there used to be a poster which will convey that if you pay, if you spend 500 rupees, you will save 50,000 rupees for future. So this is what, when the technology was introduced, the hospitals were displaying this board. So you just scan and find and abort that girl baby, just 2500, so that 50,000 rupees to be spent on her marriage or dowry, whatever will be saved. And in the beginning, the Haryana state streets would be making available the machine on mobile, that is an auto or car, and they will go and stand every household, pregnant women's households, pregnant women, and they will reveal the sex of the child, and if it is woman, girl baby, then they were advocating for, or the parents themselves will be asking for abortion. So the sex ratio is 914 now. I'm talking about child sex ratio, that is more reliable. And whatever the kind of other discrimination which I have listed down may not be a big issue, but the very question of balanced sex ratio is itself is a big issue. It will have a lot of implications in the future, and if it is 86 now, as per the 2011 census, 86 there. I don't know when 2021 census come, definitely it will be more. In fact, there are some new districts across the country which are not originally under this declining ratio, being figured in now. And studies, national studies revealed that it is because of the sexual abortions and the role of technology. Originally, the technology was not the reason for sexual abortions. And so, the very concept, right from the conception onwards, girl babies or other women are discriminated, and this has a huge implication on the very status of the women, because sex ratio is one of the indicators of status of women, and if it is unfavorable to girls, you are not wanting the girl baby, then what is the kind of expectation that you would see that having born and given birth to a baby girl? So you have that is declining sex ratio followed by nutrition and health. You also have literacy and education differences in some areas. I really don't find time to elaborate on this because every one literacy means there are such percentage difference. Education means there are huge gap of even in literacy there is a gap of persistent above under 20%. Right from the 1961 when the men's literacy was 30, the women's were only 10, and now it is 82 men whereas women only 64. So that is what I said. The persistent 20% gap in literacy achievements is the starting point, and that is of course reflected in the nutrition and health. And in our own studies, several studies, we have found that women are really what I should say, whenever there is any sick baby girl or woman, whatever, over, they will report, they will take home remedies, whereas for the boys or the men, they will report to the doctor. So similarly, in the nutritious food distribution, even if you cook 2 eggs, half an egg will be given to the baby girl, whereas 1.5 to boys. So this is what this is witnessed very physical surveys, and therefore I'm standing here in the studies. And similarly, education means dropout occurs right from the first class onwards, and the girls are expected to take care of the family, and girls replaces the mother. Girls replace the mother whenever the parents, both the parents go off to work, particularly in the informal sector. Girls will be remaining absent, and that absenteeism will lead to even dropout also later. So, occupation and employment again, different types of occupation, wage discrimination, etc., etc. Participation decision making. So when in everything, right from the sex ratio, nutrition and health, literacy, employment, there is a difference in the achievement between men and women and trans, and that will be reflected in the decision making participation also, whether it is the head of institutions or in the decision making status of any institution or political participation or the education or health, whatever the sector in which you are the minister, etc. etc. Then participation in politics, of course, thanks to the reservation, at least in the local party elections, you have that. But otherwise, it is difficult. Now, in the recent election of 2019, it has touched to 14% for the women parliamentarians. But there are countries, the socialist countries, where it has touched 45% to 48% also women parliamentarians, particularly Norway, Sweden, all those countries. And the Human Development Index wise, also these socialist countries contribute more towards women than men, or it's not than men, but at least per se, women are equally a bit lower than men in terms of decision making or parliament. There are also institutions, various social institutions, I will be showing that slide also, which are really intersecting with the gender constitution, and we will see what are those institutions. Then ownership and control over resources, and being an economic student, this has been a major issue, access to resources, and even if you have access to resources, whether you have the control over resources. Now in the this Prime Minister was Yojana, and the registration is done in the name of women also, women and men joint registration. But whether that particular house is, supposing there is any issue, the husband is no more or he is not living with you, whether she has that right to sell off the house and realize money. So that is what I mean, the control resource. And also this access to credit from bank. You sometimes you utilize a scheme available with the women, and they will park that with the either for other purposes with livelihood, they just give it to the male members of the family to conduct the business. And therefore, it is not that the ownership is there, but you have to also exercise control over the resource. And property rights, marital norms, practices, so local marriage, wherein the banks give one reason that if the girls are given, they are unmarried, if they get loan and the formal credit, then there is no guarantee that they will stay back here in the same place after marriage and that. Therefore, that is one of the, see, we have framed the social norm such that it doesn't facilitate the women to really avail all the facilities that the men do. And gender roles, division of work, tasks, etc. are different. And finally, you also have the gender-based violence, which is very much on the women compared to. There are a number of different kinds. If you go to the National Bureau of Crime Statistics, then you will definitely you will understand different kinds of crimes against women and the percentage of the year. Next. Yeah, these are the institutions which safeguard the gender inequalities in society, and the family education institution. Because family is the first place where it starts. I was talking about an example where the baby, the child getting the newspaper and the read. So that is a starting point, and distributing to with a stereotype perception. Education institutions, you all know, and even people present here also have been following the gendered notions, implementing gendered notions, wherein you will see that the women are supposed to take care of the activities related to women or means students also, cleaning or distribution of food, etc. Even at university, when the convocation takes place, all the faculty colleagues will be given some responsibility where women would definitely be found there in distribution of food. And sometimes you will also be expected to come and serve. I have witnessed in several colleges when I go to meetings or some viva, etc. And they will call only the girls to come and serve. So the extension of what is being there followed in the family also extended that to institutions and also society. And there are a number of institutions, social institutions that include caste, class, religion, culture, etc. So they also reinforce. And in the name of religion, if you ask to do something, it is like at least for fear of God, they will be doing. And so very often it is when women are gender friendly, but still they deliver for the reasons that it is religious. And so that is part and parcel of the culture also. And there are also institutions like media, literature, great ethics, etc. They also reinforce the fact that women are supposed to be docile, domesticated, and they have to deliver the household activities, and their mobility is supposed to be restricted. They cannot do all the activities that the women, or they are not permitted to do all the activities that they can do, etc. There is a space division, like this is the space where you are supposed to, this is a space where women or men, it starts right from the house where you know which space is mostly occupied by the women of the rest of the family, which space by the men in the family, and also several other contexts you can say on the public life also. The tea shops, mostly the men will be sitting and doing. Even if the women wish to go and have tea at the tea shops, the roadside, and they may feel hesitant because, and that too in the same streets of residents, you may not like to be taking tea with girls. Maybe if you go outside other shops, you will do other areas. State law and market, these are again the major institutions. They are the competing institutions also to a certain extent. Now we are really in the context of discussing how market is deciding everything, and judiciary also playing its role. So all these in several judgments are quite gender regressive, culture regressive, like very, very stereotyping, and even exposing in the judgment itself openly, which are not quite friendly for the gender, whether it's women or women or trans. Then social norms, rituals, and customs. Next. Yeah, these are the institutions I just showed. the pictorial thing also, social institutions and the socialization process. So they shape the socialization, in the socialization process, the behavior, the attitude, the perceptions about the men, women, the role, gender roles, etc. Family, media, school, the education, sorry, worship institutions. Here it is church, but it is temple, mosque, etc. Then the state. The state means the government, the current people who are ruling, and that is what I think the state. It's not a state versus central. It is state means central government. It's also a state. That it is the government, the governing body. That I used to say the state-sponsored discrimination is found in the family planning, or what we call this permanent sterilization, to put close that not need not go for another child. So it is 95% women undergoing the whole family planning, and state sometimes propaganda the methods vasectomy that is meant for women, sorry men, and chemotherapy for women. But it is not very emphatic. Occasionally there is advertisement comes, but in fact that is very easy also for the women, sorry men, to undergo such surgery and we can resume to work immediately. Unlike the women, it would be like might have some implications, side effects, etc. in future. So that needs to be attended. Next. Yeah, again, different socialization, agents of socialization. We have right from the family where everything is learned. You acquire everything, what has to be done, what is the do's and don'ts. And the language, how to address others, etc. The relationship, the rules, the role models, behavior, etc. That is followed by peers, our own friends and peers. They often shape our behavior, attitude. Then religion, I already told. Government. So whenever there is any deviation, government will implement, regulate, bring laws, etc. Media, sometimes it is proactive, it portrays men and women in their positive light, but sometimes it is stereotyping also. Workplace, you have to have more both men and women present. And still in this 21st century, there are areas where the advertisement and itself will go like this: women only apply or men only apply. And ethnic background, you have some beliefs, values, customs, and therefore you won't deviate. And sometimes those beliefs and customs or values will be not women friendly or not men friendly, and therefore some way or the other the particular gender will get affected. We also have social groups, clubs, etc. So they do influence the behavior and attitude of the people, because many of these youth and others are engaged in those clubs, and therefore when you teach through these clubs, teach means demonstrate the gender equal messages, it will be followed. And rather, if you are not and repeatedly doing gender stereotyping, then the club members and social groups also will be continuing that. Schools, of course, I already told, not schools alone, education institutions. So they just extend what is being taught there in the family. And therefore, education institutions must also be gender sensitive, and they incorporate gender into the curriculum. Like we have introduced this foundation course of gender studies to all the colleges affiliated to Bharat University, around 156 colleges. And Tamil Nadu, the major region, has been covered by Bharat University. And so they get some interest. We have used this program and also as one of the core papers, and also they may not study the course if you don't have books. So we have published book both Tamil and English. Next. So there are, because of the differences existing in the society, there are major areas of discrimination which I have already informed. So in each institutional context, you have some issues. So if it is the what kind of discrimination that is taking place in the family, which is very cruel issue or crucial, whatever. So child marriage is one. So early marriage is like during this COVID, it was reported that child marriages were on the increase. Last week, the Times of India article was revealing this. So the COVID context lockdown and the officials were not coming and investigating, and therefore these child marriage was silently happening. And moreover, because of the lockdown and the continuous closure of the schools for the 2 years together, made these girls and sometimes boys, because there was another article on the tribal children that they started working on a different environment. Like they instead they would have been in schools and learned, but these girls and boys now in the school, elementary schools or the primary schools, middle schools, they now started going to work, and after 1 year or 2 years they'll get married off also. And so the priority is not their education, but get their settlement done in the marriage. That is why the early marriages are common, and the women are in the family context only. They divide the household responsibilities, diversity is occurring, inheritance is not happening, etc. Then restricted physical integrity. The women's body politics. We are in the era of body politics, and uh, there are issues like violence against women, female genital mutilation, which was not prevalent in India for long, but now slowly started entering. And you have Maharashtra and some other states contributing more to this female genital mutilation. Then missing women, I already told six ratio was very poor, and that contributes to missing women. And reproductive autonomy, there is no much autonomy in terms of child spacing, when to give birth to a child, to how many children to go, when to, I mean, where this which hospital to be chosen, whatever. Reproductive health related freedom is very often absent for the women. Restrict access to productive and financial resources. I agree told the lack of control over resources. So there are hardly any households, the at least I'm talking about the middle class and upper middle class, where they have the at least the properties present with the parents. As per legislation, you have to divide the property equal, but that is not happening. That there comes the social institutions on the one hand and social norms on the other, and you are justified saying that you have already been spent on your marriage, and therefore you may not ask for the property. Second, secure access to non-land assets, and secure access to formal financial services. So the availability and access to formal financial resources is a huge challenge, and that also is one of the important aspects under this restricted access resources. And finally, restricted civil liberties. So there is a problem with citizens' rights, political voice, freedom of movement, and access to justice. So these are the reflections, and it was very much shown by the UN women that there has been some kind of change which restrict or bring a restriction to women and not favoring women. Next. Yeah, this is a difference between sex and gender. So something biological, which is something social construction, and hormones and other deciding this whether you male sex or female sex. And it is the man who has the sex present, whereas XY present, whereas women has only XS present. So if X and Y joins only, you will get the male baby. Sometimes it doesn't, then you will have only girls. And for that, the women are being given. So without understanding the science, there are a number of regions where second marriage happens just because the first wife doesn't have the baby boy delivery. And so this is the point on which the sex and gender difference must be understood. And this one is given by nature and cannot be changed, whereas gender is created by the society, shaped by the society, and the environment, the surroundings in which you are being socialized, determine what to do, what is your role, etc. And that is why it is scripted by socially learned, changeable So since it is learned, it is changeable also, and it is culture specific. So it is not that all the men and the women are expected to be the same like the one in the West. Or here the roles are different, the West roles are different. There is compulsory education, compulsory employment in the West. It is optional for women in Indian context to work or get educated. So that is why it is not the same everywhere. And the gender roles also differ. Next. So this is what I want to convey on this gender sensitivity. I have to also at least spend some time on the gender budgeting. So these are all the statements which we have to re-socialize. Women are not really physically weaker than men. I mean, muscularly maybe men are stronger, but biologically women are stronger. So you can later also do this. Next. Next. I just run through the slides till with gender budgeting. Next. Yeah, what has to be done? Yeah, this is what. So, being teachers in the colleges, it is our responsibility. We deal with two kinds of people. One is our own members of the family, where children are there, and we also have students where they are also to be sensitized. So, as parents, we have the role. As teacher, also we have the role. And so it is necessary that the women's studies perspective and gender perspective is incorporated, and every way, whatever delivery you done in terms of blended teaching mode or whatever the syllabus you deliver, you have to see in a gender perspective whether it is gender sensitive or not. So curriculum redesigning should be focused with non-sexist education. Next. Get sensitized and sensitize others. So that is the process now we are doing, because the entire short-term process to get sensitized. So our duty is to back to sensitize others. We socialize on gender stereotype expectations. So even if it is told that no, this cannot be done by, for example, in the institutions, some huge bench is to be lifted from one place to other, or a banner is to be tied up there on this wall. So normally it is the expectation from the teachers that if it is a co-ed, you will call the boys or any assistant who is a male. But you have to train that the girls also can do this if they are offered to do that. Or else then women themselves will withdraw. Oh, I cannot do this, can be done only by girls. So that is why just breaking the gender stereotype expectation, like you make them work, and if it is done for 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, then it will become the practice for, and it will be witnessed by others also, and they will also demonstrate to the teacher. Socialize on gender equality from childhood. I told already. I have told those. The pictures, and it is our duty to, as parent and also teachers, to re-socialize on the existing stereotype. So at the household responsibility, do not allow patriarchy to rule. Understand that there is no masculine or there is no glory in maintaining the same masculinity. It is a loss to person, because while this is being in cinema and even in the daily conversation, I witness people saying that if something happened that the men are supposed to be deliver or not, they not deliver. Say in the villain character in the cinema, they are supposed to attack somebody. If they don't do that, immediately they say, no, go and wear a sari. So that means wearing a sari is equal to what I should say, like it is not sari alone, it is woman. So it's something to talk about your courage and contribution to attack others, the violent. You are expecting the men to be violent, and if it is not, then you are equating to women who are not violent. Men are also equally violent, and they don't exercise. Men are also equally soft, they don't exercise. So that is what I mean by feminine and masculine to get ruled out. And it is a loss to person, individuals, and society to maintain and practice patriarchy and sustain unequal population. So it is not that if equality is ensured, it will be women or only men or others get benefited. The whole lot of society get benefited, and that's what in one of the here one reading writer is no more Prapanjan. He used to talk like the liberation of men is very much in the liberation of women. So if you allow the women's oppression continue, you are inevitably making it sustain, and it is not a liberation for men also. Aware, be sensitive, realize and implement equality practices. Let us create a world where no girls will be unsafe, no boys will be insecure. Next. Yeah, link academic pursuits with extension activities. And as an interdisciplinary subject, brings a close collaboration with it. Okay, I may be given to next slide. Go to next slide. Gender budgeting, because the earlier slide itself is fine, I believe. This is different. You can go still further. Still, yeah. So having got sensitized over the kind of gender sensitivity which is required for individuals and institutions, and also as teachers and as parents, we, because it is be part of the discussion, I thought I should. And even if I don't complete the given time, I'll be covering the next class also. So gender budgeting is an important concept. All economic students and teachers might be aware of it. So whenever a budget is done, it was like just the general budget. But recently, in 2005 onwards, they started introducing the gender budgeting also. So this is the process of incorporating gender perspective at all stages. You have different stages, right from legislation to policy to planning to implementation of programs, resource allocations, very much. In the university system or the college system, if a particular budget is there, you have to allocate this. For example, there is a sexual harassment cell. So it is not that you have initiated the sexual harassment cell to prevent sexual harassment, but you have to also provide a budget. Similarly, there are like sports meets or any center, fitness center. If you establish, you have to make provision for the women specific needs also. And if it is a sanitation related facilities, then women friendly components in the toilet must also be established. Incinerator, you can find incinerator to dispose the used sanitary napkins being installed in various colleges and universities. So this is what the component required for women or men or should be introduced. So incorporating gender needs. It tries to determine corrective actions that are required so that government policies plans. So far you have failed to incorporate, and now it is a corrective measure. And gender budgets are not separate budget for women or for men. So that you have to keep in mind. It is misunderstood that it is a separate budget for women. No, or men. Next. It is only seeing the budget allocation in a gender perspective. Next. The same thing is shown in the picture. Next. Next. Yeah. So this gender budgeting, gender responsive budgeting, like you have already identified certain areas where there is a gap. So accordingly, you allocate. That is what it is, gender responsive budgeting. Allocate resources or bring programs or introduce certain policy, and that should be reflected in all these ways. Like you have gender equity and equality, it has to be on the basis of human rights. Like if one particular gender doesn't, for example, by 33% reservation, we have been asking for 30 years together in the parliament, but it is not happening. Without it, some 14% have reached good, but still it is not fair. So it is a right perspective. In a rights perspective also, that has to be allocated, and it has to be accountable, it has to be transparent, it has to be participative. It is not that you decide sitting on the top for everybody. You have to invite people concerned, whoever is, whether it's men or women or disabled or transgender or LGBTQIA community. Then you also have to ensure efficiency and effectiveness. Then that will all lead to economic growth. So, if ultimate aim is to ensure growth and development, the gender responsive budgeting should have all these features. Next. This is a process like It is not that you have introduced gender budget and allocated money and leave. You have to see that this is being happening in every stage of implementation of the particular policy or project or intervention programs, etc. So, in the conception stage, how do you decide for a new scheme? For example, you talked about Tamil Nadu government introducing compensation for the women in the household who are not hiring out labor outside the labor market. So, there the conception of the new scheme is why it has been done, because there is a lot of discussions on this issue, and therefore it was budgeted. So in the budget also they have announced that is so many crore of rupees will be allocated for this. So that is what. So when a new scheme is conceived, you have to see. But this is a different budget. Anything like whether it is any developmental work, where the needs of both men and women must be considered, and accordingly the budget must be done. If it is an industry, what kind of work with the women, and whether women will have the mobility or there will be constraint, then is it possible to provide transport to pick the women from there, or men, disabled people will be there, but still they are interested in working here. So, some kind of facilitative and enabling environment, what you call that as enabling, that whenever you think of a scheme, those aspects must be considered, and you will be able to definitely implement with the agenda concern. Then in the planning stage, how do you plan? Plan documents, whether gender sensitive, who plans, and capability to plan. What all these things are to be discussed in the planning stage also. No ground you can afford to lose or leave the gender concerns. Then the approval stage also, it should be who is approving, and whether all the components required for accommodating gender needs could be together in the system. Then executing, where they say whatever policy, there will be people who will be executing. There again, you have to see whether all the whatever has been discussed there in those stages are being incorporated, and similarly to be going to the other uh, areas like monitoring and analyzing and auditing also. So it is conveying in a way that it has to be like what I should say, both. I mean, all the stages, 5 stages. Next, yeah. So gender budgeting for prosperity. So how it is being done? So I already told that the process. So gender budgeting allows governments to use administrative and fiscal policy to promote gender equality. So you have the fiscal policy, fiscal deficit, everything. But when it comes to the allocation for the requirement of particular gender, be it men or women or others, uh, you shouldn't compromise on that. So that is what must be start with the needs assessment. So whenever you introduce a scheme, new scheme, you have to have a need assessment. For example, now we are doing the project, the RUSA project, a huge project in the social science, all the social science department together are working, where the sanitation needs, we are not aware of what is actual sanitation needs because it is statewide, where state are being covered, and therefore the baseline survey we are doing a need assessment also. On the one hand, we will be identifying the gap. The other one is what kind of need specific, because the agroclimatic zones are different, and the water will be there in some places, water won't be available in some places, water will be in excess in some places. So accordingly, the facilities will also be required. So that is what the need assessment has to be done. And how do you go about gender budgeting? I already told it's not just separate budget for women, but it's very important that the Ministry of Finance should be gender sensitized, because they are after going to be contributing to the allocation of funds. Because when the very department which has to budget is not gender sensitive, then it is difficult. So Ministry of Finance must also be gender sensitive. There are two measures, tax measures and direct expenditures. So tax concessions, other things can be given. So accordingly, when you're discussing about the budgeting and the tax experts, something whichever can be given. It was given by Indian government for women employees, some tax holidays also, or tax concessions, income tax concessions. Not now. Then direct expenditure, where first I was mentioning about this, even maternity leave has been enhanced to 1 year, and similarly there must be near state also several other measures, and also specific needs required for men or women to facilitate them to reach their workplace, etc. Who will gender budgeting help? Definitely, whoever it has been, can be men, women, children, whoever. Why practice gender budgeting and what will it achieve? Gender budgeting positively correlates with the prosperity. So whatever allocation you do, it will be contributing to the development, and that development in turn bring prosperity. And therefore, there has been established studies showing that there is a positive association between the budgeting allocations and prosperity in terms of development indicators. Being aware of all the ways government budget with fiscal policy has essential effects on the women and men, and moves forward. So this is all about gender budgeting. So gender budgeting should be a component, and it is not that it should bring some separate budget for women, because all along we feel that women have a gap, whatever the area in which gender gap is being analyzed. You will definitely see that women will be behind, and in order to make them reach the same place, we always provide the women to allocate more funds for the women or budget for the women to reach. And sometimes if it is men also, women are better and men are not, then it has to be allocated for. Okay. So this is what all about the gender sensitivity and gender budgeting.
Thank you so much, madam, for your session on gender sensitization and gender budgeting. Anybody has, if any doubt, you can ask to ma'am or discuss, or otherwise we will stop here. Thank you so much, madam. किसी को कुछ पूछना है? Anybody wants to ask anything? Okay. So on behalf of all the participants, madam, I extend my thanks to you for delivering your lecture nicely. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Madam. Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Thank you all the participants. We will meet at 1 o'clock for our next session. That will be on gender-based violence.
Okay.
Okay. Now I am ending the meeting. 1 बजे आप फिर से ज्वाइन करिए.
Okay, madam.
Okay,
Okay.
madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.